I have spent much of my life waiting for happiness to arrive, thinking that one day something or someone outside of myself would finally make me happy. I would put immense pressure on myself to fulfill this expectation, which in my mind meant that I needed to be with my crush. Because in my mind, she wasn't just my crush, she was my soulmate. I thought I needed to fulfill my heady fantasies, because they weren't just fantasies. To me, they were missions I urgently needed to complete. This meant that when I found satisfaction in something, that thing would become my obsession, because in my mind, it held the key to my happiness. I would have one good experience and shortly thereafter think that life needed to stay that way, that I needed to be with the same people, with the same exact circumstances, doing the same things. The truth stings at first because it's hard to accept that life doesn't maintain its shape. It moves on and changes and doesn't always meet your expectations. With every disappointment that life had offered me, with each heartbreak or missed opportunity, I'd find myself in some form or another asking the same burning question: when will happiness finally arrive? Ironically, I have harbored quite a bit of resentment towards some Christians for focusing so much on the afterlife, because the idea of postponing heaven until after we died just doesn't sit well with me. But this pattern of waiting is the same pattern that I have, and is something I judge in myself too. We all seem to have a story about something we are waiting for, whether it be the afterlife, the colonization of Mars and the development of a technological utopia, or something like Charles Eisenstein's More Beautiful World, where society finally lives in harmony with nature. There seems to be an invisible finish line we all want to cross someday, and whether or not that finish line exists, we are all still waiting for it, wishing for a happily ever after. It might not be as grandiose as that. It could be that you're waiting for a new pay raise or a fancy new car. In any case, we can reconcile the story of waiting, first by realizing that there's nothing wrong with waiting, it's more what the waiting might mean. Because being patient is great, but waiting could also mean procrastinating or avoiding responsibility. The truth is that you have much more power to create happiness in your life than you think, and you don't need to wait. Principle 1. Choose the infinite game. In game theory, there are two types of games, finite and infinite games. A finite game has known players, agreed upon rules, a clear end, and the goal of the game is to win the game. An infinite game has known and unknown players. The rules of the game change, and the goal of the game isn't to win the game, but to keep the game going. Simon Sinek has a great video explaining this further that I would highly recommend watching. The link is in the description. I love the concept of infinite games, because I've found that thinking of life as an infinite game gives me a lot more space to be happy. If my goal is to keep playing the game of life rather than be happy, then when I don't feel happy, it won't feel like such a bad thing, and I'll paradoxically be more happy. Having my view of life be infinite means that even while I'm losing at finite games, I can hold on to the fact that I can still play the infinite game of life, even when I feel like I've lost. And since I know the loss is not forever, I can sense into its fleeting significance to the present moment and grieve fully through it and move through it. I know that it too shall pass. And when I feel like I've won, I also know that that is fleeting, and I know that it won't be the last time that I want to win. I stay in the game. I can strive to achieve my goals, but ultimately there will always be something on the other side of achievement, whether it's the next paycheck, the next date, or even the next life. As Theodore Roosevelt said, the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. So make the arena your happy place, because regardless of the wins and losses, the show must go on. When we experience happiness in life, a lot of the times, this is because when we achieve our goals, we finally allow ourselves to be happy. Our circumstances meet our expectations of how we think things should be. A lot of the times when we don't allow ourselves to be happy or fully present, it's because we judge our circumstances and think they should be different than they are. This doesn't mean that if your life feels like crap, you should just avoid it or try to meditate and accept everything. You should definitely take action, but do it from a place that avoids diminishing the current state that you're in or the current circumstances. Try to lessen your expectations and your judgments. Yes, life could be better, and it could always be better. Remember the infinite game you're in, and stop and smell the flowers occasionally. Here are some tools that keep me in the infinite frame, especially when life feels dull. 1. Set action in motion, forget about the goal, and enjoy your present life. This is best summed up in a motto I learned from the YouTuber John Sonmez: trust the process. Meaning that once you have clear action for the goal, you don't need to do anything else but act, and then you can stop waiting. Number 2. Think about the goal and enjoy letting your imagination run wild about the potential rewards you'll reap. You don't need to wait to enjoy your rewards. You can use your imagination. You don't have to make it conditional upon actually achieving the goal. Also, make sure that your imagined outcome can adapt to the circumstances. That way you're not disappointed when something changes it. Have lofty visions, but allow the visions to change. Number 3. Use a mantra to help remind you that you're in the infinite game, especially when things go bad, and they can help you get back up when you've fallen down. The motto that's helped me the most with this is just 2 words: even so. When you mess up or have a big loss, even so, you're still in the game. Principle 2. Learn to accept and receive. It's easy to get in your own way when it comes to happiness. That's mainly because happiness is so desirable that we try to control it. If you have a good idea of what makes you happy, like dancing in the sun, then you definitely have influence over your happiness. But there are a lot of things in life that you can't control that affect your happiness greatly. That is why it's important to learn to let go of expectations, accept what you cannot control, and be open to receiving happiness in mysterious ways that you could never predict. There's a poem by William Blake that I really like that goes like this. He who binds himself to a joy does the winged life destroy, but he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. What I get from this poem is that if you try to control the things that you think will make you happy and disregard the rest of life, then you'll make yourself miserable. But if you experience joy when it comes, be grateful for it, and accept what life offers, then there will be many joys for you every day. As a culture, we often think of certain emotions such as sadness as negative, which makes it hard to move through life without constantly feeling like you need to be on the up and up, binding ourselves to a joy, so to speak, and giving in to addictions that don't necessarily leave room for genuine happiness. If we shift away from the need to be happy, then we can experience sadness fully and appreciate its uniqueness. We can find a meta joy that's present even in sadness. This can be freeing because then the pressure to feel good all the time is gone. We can finally feel good with feeling bad. Here are some practical tools that I've used that help me get out of my own way when it comes to happiness. The first is Byron Katie's The Work, which is about questioning beliefs that cause suffering. This would be really good for questioning beliefs around negative feelings like sadness. The second is some simple gratitude journaling, which can help you receive what life offers in the present moment and find joy in your current circumstances. The last tool is the main practice I would like to share with you. It's a mindfulness practice that uses both mind and body to help you find happiness in the present moment. This is an exercise that my therapist guided me through in some form or another a while back, and I've found it a very useful tool to keep in my tool belt when it comes to happiness. Here's a principle to keep in mind. The vibe matters more than the story, but the story is a great place to find the vibe. I will elaborate on this more later. To begin, find a comfortable place to sit or lie down. Take a few deep breaths and settle into wherever you are. When you feel ready, begin to think of a pleasant memory, dream, or a future thing you wish to happen, something that makes you feel good when you think about it. Imagine being there in that moment or dream. Keep visualizing it. Now begin to pay close attention to how you feel. What does this happy moment feel like in your body? What are the sensations? Now, there are two options from here. You can continue to enjoy the feelings and be satisfied, or you can bring this joyful feeling into the present and slowly sense into what things in your immediate life have a similar feeling or vibe. If there are actions that arise, then act. But remember this, in the case of this practice, the specific circumstance of the memory, dream, or wish for the future doesn't matter. The feeling is your guide. In fact, the circumstance or story about the feeling can distract you from finding the feeling in the present. Let go of the stories and follow the feeling. When sensing into the present, you might find that this feeling prompts you to do something like go on a picnic with an old friend. This is a wonderful discovery and something worth acting on. But it also requires that you ask your friend and wait for an available date. The other option is to continue to follow the feeling and only stop to act when it is something you can do almost immediately. Then there is no waiting. Patience is a virtue, yes, but that doesn't mean that you need to procrastinate your happiness. Make the arena your happy place. This is your life. What are you waiting for?